This is a Merrick Studios podcast.
Today's guest is Adrian Miller. Adrian is a music executive and a behind-the-scenes strategist. Starting as a radio DJ and street promoter, Adrian built a career spanning A&R, artist management, music supervision, and label ownership. He's worked with Prince, Outkast, Cypress Hill, and Ice Cube, among others. As a manager and executive producer, Adrian played a key role in the success of Flow Rider, No Worries, and Anderson Paak. He's also won a Cannes Lion Award for his contribution to Apple's acclaimed HomePod. Through his company Zion, he continues to help artists build sustainable careers while protecting their creative vision and intellectual property. This is Mixed and Mastered with Adrian Switch Miller. Welcome to Mixed and Mastered, the podcast where the stories of the music industry come to life. I'm Jeffrey Sledge, bringing you real conversations with the people who have shaped the sound of music. We're pulling back the curtain on what it takes to make it in the music business. These are the stories you won't hear anywhere else, told by the people who live them. This is Mixed and Mastered.
Good money.
Mixed and Mastered podcast with Mr. Adrian Miller. First of all, I thought you were originally from LA. I didn't realize you were a Midwest kid, but we're going to get into all that. We're going to get on to how you feeling, man?
Good, man. Good to be here.
I like the little Lauryn Hill plaque over your shoulder. That's kind of popping, you know? Let's start from the top.
My proudest moment. I don't know why they get all the props. That's the craziest thing. I'm going to show you the proudest moment.
Let's see.
I should move on.
I can't see that one. What is
That's
it?
the last Tribe Called Quest.
You worked on that album?
Yeah.
I didn't realize. Yeah. People, when that album came out, people were calling me like, "Yo," I'm like, I didn't work on that album. Like, I worked on the other ones, but they were on an epic. I mean, Drive was no more by that point. But I love that album. I love what YouTube did. I know it was a lot of hard work to pull that together with Fight's vocals and stuff. I love that record.
Better late than never.
Yeah.
Everybody had the hat, the little boxes with all the faces.
Mm-hmm.
The connection for me was I gave Skeff a hat and he wore it.
Skeff Anselm. That's my guy.
He wore a Funk Dubious hat. And I was like, yeah, we made the album.
That photo shoot was wild, man. In a good way, in a very good way, because we put the word out and everybody came. People flew in from out of town, and if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Longbo, I believe we did an LA one too, an LA shoot as well. But some people flew in from out of town. And one of the funniest stories is Puffy was not invited. He was not supposed to be on that album cover. He just came anyway and kind of, I don't say bullied because he wasn't aggressive, but he kind of wiggled his way in. Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be on there.
I give him his props. He got on there and I did.
Because remember, that was 93, so he was doing A&R with Andre, but he hadn't popped off like with Bad Boy yet. You know,
he was making himself more important than he was.
Exactly. And I respect it. I wasn't mad. I was just like, why? I remember because I'm getting off on the tangent, but none of the Jive staff was allowed to be on the cover. So I was like, why can't we on the cover? I ain't on this album. And this dude got on the cover, you know?
That was a move. I don't know why people would hate
Jive, they like the staff to be anonymous.
Is that Barry?
That was really more Clive.
They want the staff.
Yeah, they want to kind of be anonymous. They really wanted to kind of stand out. But anyway, that's enough for me. But let's start from the top, man. St. Louis, bro. I didn't from the Lou. Talk about that. Tell me how was it growing up in the Lou?
So I didn't realize this until later in life that when I was taken home as a baby, I was taken to a place called Pruitt-Igoe. That was home.
Okay.
Now
that's
we don't know where we're
in St. Louis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pruitt-Igoe is, when you think notorious housing projects.
Got you.
You think of Pruitt-Igoe as the beginning and the start of the inception of projects.
Got you.
That project alone was, it was the premise of so many different negative things in the community that should have been a different story. It was supposed to be a different wave of opportunity for not just Black people, but people who were relocating to St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And turns out that's where I'm from, and like I said, I didn't have any of this information until I think I was looking at my birth certificate or something. I was like, Ma, I thought we were from the county. He was just like, nah, no, sir. You are in fact are from the city in a real way.
Yeah, man.
And, you learn a little bit about yourself every day, they say,
Yeah.
if you leave possibilities open. But yeah, growing up in St. Louis, there's a lot of things that I took from and with my childhood. To this day, I stay in touch with everybody. I didn't get taken away to LA. It was a cognizant choice. My mom asked me, hey, do you want to move? And at 7 years old, I separated from my brothers and went with mom.
Wow. Wow.
And they stayed back. And, I made my life and my love and my pursuit of happiness right here in LA. She married, not remarried, not to be confused with somebody who had been married to their dad, because she was never married to my father. She did get married for a first time, and we were living in LA, and I got a chance to understand love and life here. And until her and her husband decided to get divorced, I was in LA till about, 12, 13, like 11, 12 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taken back to St. Louis. So I got a chance to get a dose of life in St. Louis at a time where
as an older kid
in LA, it was actually really rough here. It was getting crazy. And so I was sitting back to St. Louis with a plight. In my mind, it was like, I got to get back home to LA.
That's interesting. I hadn't heard kind of like, I guess, reverse migration, for lack of a better term. It's like, you were in LA and you went back to the Midwest and obviously came back later. I saw you also that your dad had a record store. So tell me about that and how that affected your love for music and, interested in the business.
So the store was short-lived. It taught me
Okay.
a bit about being an entrepreneur. I was super proud that I could go to his place of business and I understood what he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I did not understand what he was doing, but I did have an affinity for touching vinyl and looking at track stops and seeing artists plow through, whether they were well-known or, local heroes. I think my favorite thing was the smell of the way the record store smelled with new vinyl in it. And,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't old vinyl then. It was actually everything brand new.
Brand new.
It was sharp and distinct.
So tell me about KBLK, working at the radio station. Tell me about that.
From janitor to air personality, back to janitor. Yeah, man, I was selling women's shoes. I heard somebody on the radio in the afternoon and I was like, I can do better than this. And I was I was at the college radio station, hypnotically caught up in the whole scene of hip hop. I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Shouts out to all my friends there. And, I got a shot at being on air. Once that happened, the bug bit and it was over with. I thought that was going to be the start of an illustrious career in radio. I did get a chance to learn a lot about how black radio, the Chitlin circuit, because I was in the heart of it. So the people who passed through there, the opportunities that came across my desk, and the community in and of itself, KBLK, man, we sat right next. We were inside of the Donnie's Super Curl factory.
So you were in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, at the curl factory.
At the curl factory.
At the curl factory. But you didn't have a curl, so you good.
I wasn't rocking a curl.
Okay. So tell me some of the artists that came through that station in that era that you got to interview.
Hammer.
Hammer worked hard.
The biggest.
That's the thing about Hammer. He worked hard. He did not skip anything.
The biggest. Phil is actually Phil from Portrait.
Got
Portrait. He was from there.
Oh.
You remember the thing Cephas and Reefus and Cece on From Living Color?
Yep.
I think they were an actual act out of Tulsa.
Really?
Because we had the most famous unknown ass artists ever come through that studio on a regular basis. And I was like,
Wow.
well, who are they? Well, everybody knew them. And I was like, well, I'm just not in the loop.
Yeah.
And then one of my favorite times is when High Five came through with their new single.
Wow.
So, you know, but I think the most famous people that came through were the record promotion guys for me. You know, Mark Boyd, Belinda Wilson, Tony Rice.
Tony Rice, that's my guy.
Yeah, man. What's Uncle Mike? Like I had the Southeast, Southwest regionals
Wow.
on my neck to play these songs when we became a reporting station.
Yeah.
And it was just interesting because a lot of people didn't understand the game. I was one of those lot of people where I didn't understand the game, but I had to appreciate the game, you know?
Yeah. So how did you end up making your way back to LA and work starting at you started at MCA when you got back home?
Well, I would come out to LA all the time, all the breaks, every school break I would get from high school, I would try to make my way out here to hang out with my cousin.
Got you.
And it worked twofold because I was telling any label that would hear it how I wanted to be back in LA. And I was starting to understand my juice card. And so when Delicious Vinyl and I started connecting, Tone Loc visited the city. I connected with the label. Long story short, I got my cousin an internship at Delicious. Well, I didn't know that Delicious was a hub for executives.
Yeah.
Rifkin, Paul Stewart. Like if you worked at Delicious, Tom Bracamontes, like if you worked
Bracamontes. Wow.
if you worked at Delicious, you had a bar in your, you know, Mike Ross gave everybody a bar to take off and go into their respective careers.
Yeah.
And I mean, creatively speaking, from the suit side of the business, a lot of people don't give Mike enough props. I'm gonna give Mike Ross his props because he led a lot of people into jobs. And so I never worked at Delicious, never had a job. But I got my cousin Lamar Algie a job over there.
Okay.
And Lamar became the head of rap music promotions. Eventually became the Gavin Promoter of the Year.
I remember Lamar.
Yeah. And I was visiting LA one spring break or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I bumped into Paul Stewart and I just realized everybody was on Paul on his neck coming to him. Like, I just walked up to him and I said, hey, let me give you my card. My name's Adrian Miller. I do marketing for, at the time I was working as an intern and it said intern on my card for Bill Stephanie's company.
So
yeah, so I was working for Soul and Lindsay
Williams.
Yeah, Lindsay Williams was our direct person. And we had a whole crew of us throughout the United States. But I took it so seriously, you would have thought I worked for Soul, the way I was pitching myself. And Paul was like, oh, yeah, you know, he took my card. He was just like, oh, yeah, I'm hip to the young black teenagers, this, that, and the other. And he was just like, yeah, you should talk to me when you get, you know, when you come back to LA. And I was like, no, we got a job, right? And he's like, laughing at me. He's like, yeah, man, whatever.
Yeah.
So I wound up coming back here. And I figured it out. I got in with Paul. He had just made himself accessible to me. So I wound up, my first job was working for PMP.
Wow. Yeah, Paul, him, Dante, they might be my longest standing music friend relationships. Like we all started around the same time. And 89 we started. Yeah, we all started together. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. If I am, please forgive me. But Paul and Dante are like definitely like two guys that, you know, when we talk, it's like talking to family, you know. But again, enough about me. So you started PMP. Now, what are you promoting at that time? Wait. You know what I wanted to ask you before you say that? I always wanted to ask you this. You play, how'd you get the nickname Swish? You play ball?
No, I didn't get the nickname Swish at all. But I did play ball and I was tight. But
I was nice though.
100%. Like anybody who ever played against me was always like, yo, A's nice with it.
A kind of nice. Okay. So
but
tell me how Go ahead.
I started kind of running ball because I was dancing more than anything.
Got you. So tell me about what were you working at PMP at that time? What was Paul working?
We had all the accounts because everybody was giving us all the work because I would actually do reports. I would go out. I would do the heavy lifting. But we had Naughty by Nature. We had all the Tommy Boy accounts. So everything that they would release. Of course, we had everything from Delicious Vinyl.
Of course.
Profile.
Wow.
I remember getting the Elektra account and was in love because we had Brand Nubian. So forget about it. Like Big Beat. I can remember working everybody's records at once upon a time. Like I would have 20 records I'd be going out with.
Wow. And all heaters. You had heaters.
Yeah, it was never like the bunk pile. And even if it was, I didn't have to play it because I was running around with vinyl.
Yeah. How long did you work at PMP?
I stayed with Paul for about a year, maybe a year and a half.
Okay.
It just wasn't as sustainable as I would have wanted it to be.
Got you.
I needed to get in a position where I was making enough money to be a freed up college student. And I was fortunate to have the job, but I was, Paul has a unique way of doing business management. And, hey, if you got paid, you got paid. If you didn't, and I don't want to front on him because he wasn't about him not paying you. It was how
he's not a scammer. No, he's not.
Yeah,
not
it was
all,
how he paid me. And it was always like, okay, well, you're supposed to make $500. You want to make $1,000? I'm like, yeah, I want to make $1,000. He's like, okay, so go DJ this event and make sure that with the $2,000, you make sure I get my part, you get your part, everybody got a part. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? So he was hustle man in me.
Yeah, man.
Not every time, but definitely. And then unbeknownst to he or I got an offer for an opportunity to go work for Graham Armstrong over at Hits. And because I understood black radio and I knew a few names in the game, Graham gave me the opportunity to come over to Hits magazine and do some reporting and recording, finding weekly list from programmers and music directors. So I got a chance. All of this bound me into being someone who understood not just urban radio, but the culture of where it was changing into hip hop. Because remember, they fronted on us as people involved in rap music in that era.
100%. It was to them, it was a fad. It wasn't worth even taking it serious and giving it, a place. It was like, this will be done soon, whatever.
Yeah. So my program director at KBLK was a buddy of mine. Like I became friends with him, Reggie Reg. He's from Detroit, and he was all about urban radio and how, why are you concerned about hip hop so hard? And I'm like, dude, because it's what I love. You don't hear this? Like, are you crazy? If you don't get out of my face with this Levert project, you too young to be talking about the OJs. What is wrong with you?
Yeah. Phyllis Hyman.
Yeah, I'm like, Phyllis Hyman. But it gave me a different, like, I guess it was great music, period. You couldn't front on Luther Vandross and Phyllis Hyman and the likes of.
Phenomenal.
And that is who came through Hits to see Graham, were those types of artists. It was very rare to get a D Nice to come through, but when he did, and then eventually I became the point that Paul would make on his runs when he was bringing people through like D Nice. He would be like, hey, I got to come through the office. And eventually I talked Graham, myself and Darryl Lindsay, speaking of Lindsay, Darryl Lindsay and I spoke to Graham about creating a hip hop chart for Hits, and therefore the rap music chart was created.
So you created that?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Wow, that's big.
Yeah, everybody goes to Ricky Lee, but I was like, before Ricky Lee, there was Ness, Nasty Ness. Before Ness, there was who did it before Ness? There was a girl. I forget her name. I see her face so clearly too. Man, oh man, we up there.
Wow.
Huh?
Yeah. That happens to me too. It's like, what was that girl's name? Yeah, man. I didn't know. Yeah, Hits. I mean, I guess still now, but at that time, Hits was such a powerful entity.
Yeah, and they let me go and said, we're not going to do the rap chart anymore. And lo and behold, Ricky Lee is over there. And I gave them fits because the further along the way I went, the more I would remind them as a pin cushion how they did me wrong and how I felt like I should have been with the company a longer amount of time. You know, everything happens for a reason.
For a
And had I
reason.
stayed there, I wouldn't have been able to do some of the other things I was able to do.
Exactly.
But, you know, Dave Adelson and I had it out. And he was like the macho behind hits. And I would low-key see him somewhere and I would just go upside down on him. I'd be like, yeah, and hits, they all over there stealing money from the record companies. Oh, man, I never wanted to pay them. And Dave Adelson was like, why you keep saying that? And he was just like, I keep hearing you bad-mouthing the Hits magazine crew. I was like, no, I'm bad-mouthing Dennis and Lenny. I'm being very specific because that's who fired me. I was like, and they fired me and they broke my heart. I gave that company everything. And he was just like, well, you got to stop talking about people. I was like, I don't got to stop doing nothing. I was like, I'm not. Matter of fact, I'm going to turn it up.
Go even harder. You
And
know?
he and I eventually hashed it out. And he said, you know what, Adrian? I got to give you your props because you were one of the few people who spoke out against that kind of rhetoric. You know, like they would bring people in just to take what their idea was and steal it. And that gave no journalistic integrity to the magazine to have a distinct editorial that gave, like you said, Hits was important.
It was very important.
And I'd like to think that the rap chart for Hits was as important.
It
and
was.
all the things in it, that was my writing. That was Darryl's writing. And Dennis and them started to take over what was being said because they didn't like that the labels were influencing everything that was being said in editorial. And I would be like, oh, I already went to press. I can't change that. And, you know, if it was something positive, I'd want to write about it. We didn't have enough space to write anything except for like upcoming news.
Yeah.
But if it didn't perform, I would speak on it. And they didn't like that. And so, yeah, you know, I left Hits with, as Rifkin says, the Rolodex. That's how I got hired working for Rifkin because Fade insisted Adrian's Rolodex was crazy. And it was.
So tell me about that. Tell me about working for Steve in those early days in Fade Duvernay.
My man, that's Big Bro right there.
Yeah.
It's funny, like people don't know Fade's history. Fade and Paul were roommates in college. And Fade was one of the first people to really start calling my line before we were a reporting station. Fade would be calling me like, yo, just play the record anyway. I know y'all, you know, whatever. And I'm like, okay, I play his record. And we had a rapport on that alone.
Gotcha.
But he told Steve, he said, Adrian probably distinctively understands the game inside and out because he was on the inside. And he worked for Hits, which was a report. And he talked Steve into it. Steve hired me at SRC.
Okay.
I was doing national something, I don't even remember, but it was a radio promo thing. And I wanted to sign acts. And he didn't, we weren't a label. So he was just like, well, you know, you ain't gonna be able to do that because we're not a label. So I was trying to, you know, do my best to figure it out. And we got that Wu-Tang Clan across our desk because it came in on my side of the department. Trevor worked under me with me.
Okay.
And Trevor was like, yo, you know, this is Will Strickland is playing this record, man. You know, we got to get this in. And Fade was all about Tongue Twister. He wasn't cheering us on for nothing. It was the Alcoholics and Tongue Twister. But when we heard Wu-Tang, we were distinctly informed on something that was happening and coming. How the deal happened, it's a little foggy in terms of that. I wish I'd have took a journal.
Yeah.
But I definitely had my hand on the vinyl like Trevor. It got to Fade's office. Fade got it to Rifkin. Riff signs it as a 12-inch. How I got fired was RZA was always like, yo, and RZA was doing, it's not divine. You got to get us all individual deals. And I kept telling Steve, we got to sign them all individually now. And Steve was like, I don't think you get it, kid. I got this shot at it. We had Twisted. It didn't blow up. It did well. Twisted did really good. And it did the numbers it was supposed to do, but it didn't blow up.
Gotcha.
So Coming was the licks. Coming were Han Soul from Philly. But Wu-Tang came out of nowhere and just blew up. And he was just like, I'm not going to keep hearing you come into my office tell me how I got to sign these groups individually. And Steve says, I didn't fire you. I didn't fire you. And because of that, he fired me because I kept going in his office saying, hey, man, you know, what about Method Man? He's a standout guy on the record. And he would be like, get out of my office. Man.
So Steve didn't even have options on them. He just signed the group.
No. And then, so the inner workings, and I can speak about this aspect of it because, you know, Matty C and Cone Cantrell and all those guys, nobody worked. They didn't work there. There was no Loud New York. So I was like, well, if you're going to let me go, you should be paying attention to Matt. He's got a good ear. You know, he found all his acts at the source. And, you know, whether or not my influence helped, Matt became an A&R guy there, you know. And I cried. I lost my job. I didn't have no job.
Wow.
But I was such a hustler in that era. I had a whole hat line. That's a whole nother story. A-Hat was my company. And when it was like a week and a half, nobody could get me on the phone or people were paging me. I had a bunch of missed calls. The business affairs side of my company of A-Hat was ran by Liz Heller's company and her son, Jonas Heller. And unbeknownst to me, they sent out a cease and desist to Carl Kanai's company. To Cross Colors in the middle of their acquisition about them taking the patent trademark off of our hats. We did the tie-up hats, and I patented that.
Wow.
And I'm crying about losing my job. Meanwhile, they settled it. I know nothing about this. They settled it. I own like 75% of the company. They were more my distributor, but they settled the thing with Cross Colors, and it was a proper 6-figure check.
So you got a little cushion.
Didn't know for a week and a half. I had no idea. I just thought I couldn't pay my rent, was fired, didn't have no opportunities in the front of me. And then last week I was talking to DJ Ralph M from Fun Dubious Tribe, and he was telling me that was the week. Amanda was like, where's Adrian at? Like, she was trying to find me to hire me. And she had told everybody she was hiring me. And I met Amanda when I worked for PMP because she and Skate Master Tate were seeing each other.
Okay.
And I would powwow with her in the living room all the time. And she was just like, when I start my company, I'm hiring you.
Wow.
And I didn't know. So I had a job in the waiting. I wasn't returning phone calls. And then when I returned Jonas's call, he's like, you better get down to this office right quick. And I went to the office and then saw this check. And I was like, what is this for? They were like, we settled the thing and da-da-da-da. We're rich. I was like,
you're like, what?
I was like, what? And none of it made any sense.
That's crazy. Now, as Amanda, is she related to Jerry Heller?
No, Amanda. So the Hellers were not related as far as I know. Jonas Heller and Liz Heller.
Separate.
Jonas went off to do more real estate stuff.
Gotcha.
But I met Jonas through his cousin, Jordan. Jordan, myself, and a guy named Guy Osiri. Thought we were the three horsemen. We were intentional about what we were going to do in the industry. Guy said he was going to go work for Freddie DeMann. In the back of my mind, I always knew I was going to go link with Benny, but I was like, yo, I'm gonna stay put. I'm rocking with Amanda. And Jordan went to go work for a guy named Sandy Gallen.
Sandy Gallen. Wow.
So we all took off in our separate directions as a crew to come back again in Voltron.
Wow. So tell me about working with Benny.
So that came after years of being with Buzztone Immortal. And we were just kicking up dust. Every time you turned around, we were knocking something out the park. My job wasn't the easiest job.
Let's talk about Buzztone, and then we'll get to Benny. So let's talk about your Buzztone run and who you worked with there.
That was the me seeing management and label operate. Keep in
Gotcha.
mind that was a little bit of what Paul was doing, a lot of
Mhm.
it. He was growing into that. So it was management and becoming a label. It was a lot of bit of what Steve was doing, less management, more label.
More
And
label.
then Happy and Manda really had a greater balance. They had way better backing with Sony. They had support from all the companies. So it was interesting because I got it. Like I took 2 steps back and I was like, oh, this is how you do it. You manage and you deal as the label. There was no differentiator. But the management company was in the front. So you had people like David Leinhart, Jeff Burrows, Julie Miller, my cousin. You had all those people in the front. And then in the back, you had Dominica Dobson, myself, which eventually became a crew of building up people like I hired James Andrews, David Miller came on board. John Stockton was my intern. And eventually I sent him away. I was like, you got to go work for somebody else because you're too dope and we can't pay you. I brought in a guy named Paul Pontius from Hits Magazine.
Okay.
Paul was our alternative guy. And we had a guy who really concerned himself with dance remixes and stuff, Sean Knight. So we had a complete team in the back at Immortal jumping off records like, I think we worked Jump Around. It wasn't our record, obviously. That was Tommy Boy.
Tommy Boy, yep.
And then, but we came with Jump Around, Cypress Hill, and then Funk Dubious was ours, Bow Wow Wow. And the teamwork to the relationship at Epic, it was unsurpassable. You were going to bow down to greatness. All we needed was the record. And Funk Dubious gave us Bow Wow Wow. And a grandiose album that was like, huh? And I don't think that the music scene really understood their get down because they were as dope as Cypress, but as poppy as House of Pain.
Yeah.
And they were the youngsters of the crew.
Yeah. They had a undertone of kind of like humor, like almost like collegey humor undertone in their lyrics and stuff like that. Campy. Yeah. They were fun, fun.
Yeah. And sucks because the rapper was legitimately a genius. Son Doobie. And the producer, Ralph M was one of the guys that did he did Jump Around. He produced it.
Yeah.
So he was actually a catalyst. And that group overall was just like, huh? This label? Like we came out of nowhere and they were letting me go crazy. I was throwing porno parties and all kinds of crazy.
And we'll be right back.
I'm Bun B. I'm a host and a co-owner at Merrick Studios. And we just took things to the next level. Merrick Studios Plus is live. So tap in at wearemerrickstudios.com, get 65% off, and don't just listen, be a part of the show.
Master the art of lyricism with Pendulum Mink, the first school for rap. Learn elite techniques through immersive lessons, real-world exercises, and guidance from hip-hop icons. This is where MCs sharpen their skills and glow boldly on the mic. Ready to level up? Visit pendulummink.com and start your journey today.
And now, back to the show.
Things.
That's wild.
Yeah, man. And then leaving there, it was Funk Dubious, Volume 10, soundtracks galore, Korn, Incubus. I had my hand in a bunch of different types of things and warranted a bigger picture situation. And after talking to Benny, he was just like, yo, you can come over here and do exactly what you're doing over there and you make a lot more money. And I was like, sounds good to me.
So Benny's at Warner at this point?
Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
Yep. And he's at Warner really having things. And
killing it. Murdering
what
it.
didn't dawn on me was that Cold Chillin' was under his, Tommy Boy was under his, Paisley Park, Sire, Maverick. All that was under his, whether it was white or black, Benny had a hand in putting the record out there. And he was just like, why you want to just do hip hop records or new rock? And he's like, why don't you come over here and do your thing? And I was like, okay. And I think I was maybe making 60 grand working for Happy. And I had gotten an offer from Eric Brooks to come work with him. But Eric was like, yo, I'm gonna give you 60. Yeah, Eric is like, I'm gonna give you 65. And I was like, I might as well just stay here, man. I had Reed come over there and reinvent the wheel with you. I ain't doing all that.
Yeah.
I love you, but I ain't gonna do that.
Not for an extra
And
$5,000. It's like, you're not worth it.
yeah, you know, and
Mhm.
it was what he could do. So I respect that he even
Yeah.
offered it.
Mhm.
But then Benny came in and he gave me like 5 times my salary.
Yeah.
And didn't blink. It was
Of course
like,
not. They were printing money at that point.
yeah, he was just like, you come over here and you can work with Prince. Do whatever you want to do. I don't care. And I was like, wait, what? Work with who? Oh,
Wow.
I'm out of here. Good luck.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, you know, he's done so much after he left Warner, obviously with, you know, managing Jennifer Lopez and other things, you know, movies and TV.
Yeah.
But so I think people don't realize how big and powerful of a music executive he was, because I think people look at him as just a manager now. I don't want to just downplay just a manager. That doesn't sound right. He's a major player, but people don't know that he was a big music executive. You know, he was making records and knocking it out.
I'll say it out loud for those that don't know. He was actually the reason Jennifer did a lot of what she was able to do. Mariah, a lot of what she was able to do. Will Smith, don't forget,
Absolutely.
Benny is the Fresh Prince of
Yeah, he
Bel-Air.
is the Fresh Prince. Yeah, yeah.
He's not just the executive producer of the show. This show was about his life.
Yep.
So having access to him and understanding this is the pinnacle of where I wanted to be in terms of my career, I got to go all the way back to KBLK, where I saw an Ebony magazine sitting on the desk, and it was Will Smith and Benny Medina on the cover. And I was like, I want to do that. That's exactly like I heard about Benny, and I was like, I'm out of here. This is what I'm doing. I'm doing what he's doing. I want to be, you know, on both sides of it, where I could be in the front and the back.
Yep.
You know.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That was. So wait. So I'm trying to get my timeline right. So you worked at MCA too as well. So correct?
The only MCA connection was me working for Soul as an internship.
Okay. I got confused. So Warner was your kind of really breakout label experience.
Yeah, I would say first and last, because after Warner, they cut the tide on everybody.
Yeah,
that was when black music departments were getting tossed in the wind.
Yeah, you know, I just interviewed Denise Brown 2 weeks ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Denise and them came in, is when we were exited out.
Wow.
And Denise didn't know me, but Allison knew me. And I'm going to be on her podcast in a week. And I told her, I said, oh, you want to have me on your podcast? I don't know if you want to do that one, Allison. And she was like, no, and you're going to tell the truth, because I'm sick of hearing about you and da-da-da-da. And I was like, okay.
Wow. So tell me about what happened, where you went after Warner. What happened after Warner?
I had a real sensibility about the scene. I saw what was happening in it. Keep in mind, before I went to Warner, I was managing the Baker Boys and working through getting Big Boy, helping him get on the air, getting people positioned. I saw the game making happen, and I got to see it in full working mode with Benny. So really placing my guys in position, and whether you were my guy or not, if you called me up and said, hey, you know, like Fuzzy did, like, hey, when you gonna give me a job? And I was like, okay, cool. And I connected him with Patrick Moxie, and the rest was that history.
Yeah.
So you could get a hustle on with me, from John Stockton to Amani Duncan. I got her with Kevin, and she was Kevin's assistant. Like, a lot of East Coast people rocked with me because all I did was help people position. And never looked back. I didn't, if you locked it in, most every time people did not mess up. They locked in and they loaded. And they went off to have illustrious careers. One of my closest friends was Dan Charnas. We worked.
Actually, let me rewind all the way back. Dan is probably the third person in that. I said that Paul, Dante. Yeah, we all started together. Dan from when we started together. Dan was our profile.
So that's how you and I, we had such a little ecosystem and atmosphere.
Yeah.
And, I was a huge fan of what you guys were doing over there. I was always chasing down the captain.
The captain, oh my God.
Yeah, Sean Karasov was my guy. When he moved to LA, he was my guy. Like, people don't know how cool he and I were.
Wow.
And I wasn't out of my mind. I was just in the scene in a real way, and he'd look up and I'd be there, and I'd be a person he could trust because he knew me. And it wasn't like he didn't know me. I probably was the most recent person to talk to Albie Ragusa.
Yeah.
I stay in touch with people.
Albie's another one.
Yeah.
It was all of us. It was all of us.
Listen, I constantly stayed in touch with and spoke to what Paul introduced me to: Faith Newman, Lisa Cortez, Albie. When I go to New York, I'd be like, hey, I'm in town. What's up? Albie hit me like, yo, come meet me over at this spot, Nels, blah, 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 blah. I get over to Nels. Yo, this is my man, Dominic Trenier. This is this is that. This is my man. This is my man, love Dom. This is my man, Combe Cantrell. Combe just got in town last week. Combe, tell him, a little bit about where you from. I was doing the whole thing and then some. And Sophia tucked me in. She was like, you move around with me. You don't move around by yourself. And I was just like, all right. And little did anyone know, all this time, I'm really close with Darian Dash. He was in LA going to school, and we were back and forth with each other.
Wow.
So that was like my man. We were on point with each other. And I didn't move like the typical guy in LA. I was blinded by the reach and the endless possibilities. And I talked to Jameson Grillo 50 times a week. He didn't leave Boston. And he was just like, I'm moving to New York. And I was like, you should. I'm going to get a job. You should. Yeah, so maybe I missed the relationships to the artist, but I gained in triple doubles with the executives.
The executives. Yeah.
And I knew kind of people's temperament. And I expected to understand greater. So I didn't walk into Elektra Records because I knew Dante. I didn't know Dante. I walked in because I knew Uncle Mike. And I knew Mike Jones. I didn't kind of know him. Me and Uncle Mike would run around in Dallas, in Tulsa. Mark Boyd at EMI. And guess who was signed to EMI? Jazzo.
Yeah, at that time, Jazzo.
And guess who had his boy running around with him at that time?
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z. So guess how long I've known Jay-Z and Jazz? Since then. Because Mark was like, yo, here's my EMI jacket. Just wear the jacket. They'll let you in. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was that kind of thing, that camaraderie, that lack of mine, self, me. It was ours.
Yeah.
It was our thing. And I didn't know what any other way to treat it. Like I treated like our thing, so that mentality, whilst you asked me what did I do after Warner, that mentality gave me the gumption that I could do anything. And I had a striking bit of paper after Warner because of the way my deal was structured with Benny. And Benny said, if I get fired, well, you're well spoken for. Don't trip. And I took my little bit of a grind and I put it back with my boy Jordan, and we started a company called Worldwide Heavyweight. And the premise of the company was to sell mixtapes, very specifically DJ Rectangle mixtapes. And boy, did we ever sell mixtapes. I sold cassettes, vinyl, CDs. I would sell T-shirts. I would sell you anything if you wanted to buy it.
Yeah, right.
And we would make it. We went from Ruta to Tuta.
Were you distributed mostly through the Swap Meet network in LA?
No, we had barcodes on our business.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We were distributing.
Wow.
I was selling tens of thousands of records, mixtapes, and I was campaigning that DJs were real instrumentalists. I was on the accord that this was a real instrument. And we were managing DJs in rock bands.
Got you.
We were the guys putting DJs in the rock bands. And case in point, I put Homicide in a group called Sugar Ray. And I introduced him to the group, put him in the group.
Wow.
He had no idea what he was doing. He didn't want to do it.
Really?
Didn't want to do it. And I still got my management contract, in case you wonder. And I have never asked this Negro for a dime. And feel free, I could build families too, Craig. I would like to get paid
for my time. Hey, so
for my time and energy. Because no. Make no mistake about it. Introduced him to the group with the intention of him becoming a member. He became an equal sharing partner
oh
with
wow.
the band. This DJ that was sleeping on my couch, my guy,
He made a mint.
He drives a Lamborghini.
Oh.
And people think that I'm going crazy. And I'm like, no, if you were there and you saw what happened, I'm not crazy. And he think I'm crazy. I love him, but I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And his sister and I have a laugh all the time about his ass. The bottom line is, you got people who need you to show them that you got your paperwork straight.
Mm-hmm.
And you need sometimes to actually execute that. I don't. It's very rare.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that with creatives, so to speak. I do like the breathing room. I do prefer for you to be honest in yourself and be like, yo, I want to pay my people. I want to take care of my folks. I want you to look at me and lead by example. Because think about it in perspective. If I said, nah, I don't want to give you a record deal, volume 10, there would be no Pistol Grip Pump. Rage wouldn't have it on their album. Outkast wouldn't have it on their album. Wouldn't have happened. Baker Boys wouldn't have had a hit. Because they never had a hit after that. And not to say they wouldn't have produced more. And I can't predict if they would have had a hit record or not. I know that it was more than producing the song collectively than it was hitting the buttons of the song. It was so much more to it.
Yeah.
With them telling me, we can't even play the record. And me saying, not only are you going to play it, you gonna play it. And this is how we're going to play it. We had to change it up because they were like, we can't mention a song with guns in it on the radio with an anti-gun campaign going. I was like, well, don't worry about that. We're going to switch it. And I did a remix and we switched it.
Wow.
And it became a staple song. So these are the things for me. It wasn't just about a job. It was about the adventure. Yeah.
Got you. Hey, tell me about the Good Life.
It wasn't about a job. It was about the adventure. I wanted no part of being in the record business. And the inception of the Good Life, it was my cousin and I on those summer trips running around. I saw a flyer talking about, hey, we're opening up an open mic for the community, and I'm down with that. So I'm like, okay, we're going to this meeting. He's like, what meeting? I was like, you ain't see this meeting right here? Look, we show up, B Hall. My boy Brian is there. Don't quote me on his name. Brian with his girlfriend Crystal was there.
Okay.
Who else was there? I think B Hall's son was there. Myself and Lamar, and it was a few other people. I can't even begin to tell you who was there. But I was leaving like the next week. I was on my way back to St. Louis because this was super, super, super early, and I was on my way to college.
Got you.
No. I was on my way back to Tulsa.
Okay.
And I was like second year. I was sophomore.
Okay.
So I get back there. Before I left, I was always hustling, doing something. I had a couple of bucks, always had a couple of bucks. And she took an offering at the end saying, hey, can somebody throw some money in the hat so we can get this thing started? And I don't know, I threw a couple $100 in there. I was just like, boom, I want to see this happen. I figured everybody else did as well. I left, came back, and my friends and everybody in the neighborhood was like, yo, let's go to the Good Life. This, that, and the other. I didn't know what the Good Life was. And I was like, all right, let's go. I want to go to an open mic. We get over there, and I got like my last year of school. I'm still in school, and I hadn't even started working for Paul yet.
Okay.
And I walked in, and B is like, where have you been? And I'm like, what do you mean? I was at school. I want to, I don't live out here right now. And I wasn't living in LA then.
Okay.
And she goes, where have you been? Look at what we started. And I go, oh, what do you mean? She's like, well, you're the one who gave me the money. Did nobody else kick in? I was like, oh, that was a pivot that just blessed my heart. I did not want to be in the record business. I didn't want to be in the record business because in life, we learn how to connect with our people, and my godmother and godfather separated. And we took a side. I rocked with my godmother. But it showed me that this business tears you apart, tears the family apart.
Absolutely.
And I didn't want to be part of this. I was trying to build the Black family. I was wearing an African medallion. I rock with every race.
Mm-hmm.
But I had to find out who I was through the music that we listened to. I had to understand why Puerto Ricans were important to hip hop. You know, New Orleans, my Creole people. I was learning about us in the music, and it was deeply pushing me towards, and didn't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
The music was teaching me so much. Just listening to the rhythm of Africa Bambaataa. Not to be corny about it one way or the other, but Lakim Shabazz.
Mm-hmm.
Those records, I met Premier before he was in Gangstar. He was going to Prairie View.
Yeah, Prairie View.
That was a hop, skip, and a jump from TU.
Mm-hmm.
We were all partying around each other. I met Bushwick Bill before he was in, because I was in Texas.
Mm.
And that whole movement down there was crazy. And we were seeing the inception of it it wasn't just the South. We were getting the music like everywhere else in the Midwest. And if you were in Tulsa and you heard my radio show, I was playing all the right records. I was playing Poor Righteous Teachers. I was playing YZ. I was playing, Watts of Prophets, NWA. I was in the middle of a melding of it all. And they only gave me a couple of hours a week to get down, Jeff. So I was going through them. I was like,
figure it out. Yeah, get them all in there. Yeah.
So, and all that Good Life, I was amazed. And they were like, "Are you going to get on the mic?" And I'm like, "I'm not getting on that mic. Crazy." Because I was doing poetry. But, I was seeing that these guys were incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Microphone Mike
was involved with that, right?
I just said his name. Microphone Mike created he was part of that whole culmination of the fellowship. And then there was a crew around all these kids we called heavyweighters. And I was just by default in the heavyweighter crew. Everybody was just like, "What is this nigga here?" And Mike was like, "Oh, quiet as kept. A is kind of nice with it, but he ain't gonna say nothing. He's just gonna be." And then people realized Pops was in the game. And they were like, "You can help us get a deal." I'm like, "Nah, I can't help you get no deal." He's like, "Man, you gonna help us get a deal." And simultaneously, I think we were throwing parties, myself and Coke from Madcap.
Okay.
We were throwing parties with Shane Mooney. Shane's still throwing parties to this day. He's crazy for that, but I ain't mad at him.
Mm-hmm.
And at one of my parties, I was just like, "All right, what I'm gonna do is get you guys on the mic, and then we'll take it from there. I'm gonna introduce some people." And I invited Kim Bowie from Island Records.
Kim Bowie, yeah.
Kim came in, she saw them, and she was just like, "I love them. They're wonderful. I want to sign them." I'm like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna do a deal." And here I am thinking, by default, I'm gonna manage the group. Kim was like, "No, I got somebody else to manage the group." I could have just said, "No, you don't. These my guys, and I'm introducing you to them." But she was just like, "Well, what do you want?" I was like, "Either I want to manage them or A&R it." And that back then, I knew what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And that was before I had any job working for Paul or anything. And eventually, cooler heads prevailed. She goes, "Okay, cool, I got you. I'm gonna take care of you." And then I got put on, and I started my whole workforce thing.
Yeah.
But on the other side, I was making other shit happen. And this was one of those moments where I meet Kedar. I have no idea what a Kedar is, but his brother is Daddy-O from Stetson Sonic. Sounds good to me, because I like Stetson Sonic, but I didn't realize how tight he and I would become. And then she had an intern working for her at Island Records named Darkest Bees. And everywhere I went, Darkest goes. Darkest eventually became the guy who signed Amy Winehouse. CEO. My man. Everybody's like, "How do you just get him on the phone so quick?"
Yeah.
Because I was always a hard worker, and the ingenuity never stopped, and the relationships never end. Right?
Yeah. So tell me about Anderson Paak.
Well, when you know Freestyle Fellowship's style of music and that entire mantra,
Makes sense.
when you're around Kedar, when you go through working with groups like Stepchild and being around D'Angelo and Dom Trenier, and my whole point was find the next one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm thinking Prince, he's thinking Kendrick. Come together. I'm like, no, do not rap. Just sing. Play your drums. Keep going with what you're doing. We gonna be cooler than cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him because I was working with guys he was working with.
Gotcha.
He was drumming for a group called Tehran and Omari, and Dom Trenier and I had started our own management company together. And we were going to pick up a bunch of artists, and I had my sights on him. His manager wasn't having it at the time, and I was just like, all right, well, your manager ain't gonna go for it. But he was trying to get out of the deal with his manager. And I was like, dude, you don't just get out of your deal with your manager. You know,
Yeah.
I was not a fan of dumping the manager to just go away. We did
Mhm.
everything the right way. The manager didn't really want to manage anyway. He was doing him a favor. And I was like, well, you need somebody that really just believes in you, not doing no favors for you. Like, you know, what kind of thing is that?
Mhm.
Long story short, I still believe in Anderson. He's
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Philosophically, I think we built something that not a lot of people could look at and say they built with an artist. Everything was independent. Everything still is independent. He signed with an opportunity with Dre, but he's independent of that.
Mhm.
Down to him and Bruno, you know.
Yeah.
My partner was like, "Oh, do you want to go on a tour with Bruno?" I was like, "And make records with him? Are you kidding me? I want to do it all."
Mhm.
So we have deals with Stone's Throw. We have deals with
Yeah, Stone Throw, yeah.
Empire. Malibu's on Empire.
Now, is he still in the deal with is this still a deal with
Aftermath.
in Doug Morris's company? Wasn't he with 12 Tone or
No,
something?
Doug sold that company.
Oh, gotcha.
Doug got in and out, and Anderson was one of the biggest facto reasons he did. Shouts out to Jimmy Iovine. What's up with that bread? You
I
know,
remember when
I thought we was gonna get bread. I thought we was doing something, Doug. Doug said, we gonna do this, we gonna do that. Dre called Anderson and told him that, you know, he can't really fuck with me. He was mad. Anderson had put me up to be getting Dre upset with me. But what he put me up to get Dre upset with me about, that ain't even what Dre was mad at me about. Dre is notorious for being on again, off again, upset with folks.
Gotcha.
And you gotta ride the wave with it, because shit, who you rather be upset with you, Clarence or Dr. Dre?
This is true.
I'd rather Dr. Dre be pissed at me.
Yeah,
because Clarence Avant was not somebody I wanted on the down line to be pissed at me.
Exactly.
And so Clarence would be pissed
Yeah.
at certain things. And you know what? I don't make everybody happy.
Yeah,
And everybody don't make me happy.
You can't.
Everybody don't make me happy.
Yeah, you can't. You can't.
You know, so it's all love now.
Yeah.
But that's because cooler heads prevail. But boy, did I was really like, wait, what? We built something this strategic only to see it go left? And it's like, you got to ask yourself, why is it that we can't build something together? Why is it that they can? And I'll let people be using their imagination about us versus them.
That's a whole podcast. That's a whole.
Yeah, man.
So let me talk to me about. I know you're working with the Hip Hop Museum. I named Rocky on here as well. Tell me about that.
Just, you know, my boy Doug Young, shouts out to him.
Doug, yeah, I know Doug. Yeah.
Yep. Him and Michael, they both hit me up. Clientele, sorry, I'm calling him by their first name. Hit me talking about like, yo, man, you got a contribution. You've got a story. They need you to be able to help them figure out things. And so as a board advisor, I'm just here to help where Rocky is, because I was always a fan of his anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So if they call on me for something, I'm here to help where I can. I'll be out there for the big thing that DOC is doing. I work very closely with DOC now, very, very closely with Positive K now. I represent Latrim,
Okay.
so Tigra and Buddy. And, you know, I had a whole career with Spinderella. I love my old school artists and being of service to them. You know,
Yeah.
Drez and I are super tight. Shouts out to my brother Chi Ali. You know, I stay involved. D Nice. I stay involved with us. If you're involved, Too Short, I I involved. I don't lose momentum because we didn't talk for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. So what are you working on now?
I have a little podcast as well, you know,
Okay.
that Sway and Tech are executive producing.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. It's on a platform we called the HSS feed as opposed to the RSS feed. This feed is about incubating youth and cultural relevant products.
Got you.
My show is one of the products. It's called Hustle Sold Separately.
Okay. So what's
That shit.
the show
The
about?
show is about all the decisions we can make as artists over a song and whether or not that song can become a hit. What it really takes ultimately is constructive criticism and being able to accept that constructive criticism, being able to take your sketch back to the drawing board and really work it through. It's about the development of your song. It's about the development of your character, your career. It's about the song becoming the endless possibility of a hit. I'd like to think I've been a part of enough hits to say what it takes, what's the secret sauce, and how to help artists through with the secret sauce. And we've had a couple of real cool things and instances where people have almost gotten signed.
Okay.
And I haven't launched the podcast yet.
Oh, when you launching?
This summer it
Okay.
comes out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we've done live streams. You know, I'm a crazy person when it comes to the clip art. So our clips are going wild. And yeah, I think it's a part of where social media and digital marketing has now landed. I'm intrigued about how to really get in there and do it the right way. So that's what we're doing.
Cool. Now, are you working with Max Goose on that, or is that something separate?
So the company that Max and I are doing is a bigger vision than what that is.
Got you.
That's called XA. My company Zion, his company Artistry have come together and we formed what is XA.
Dope.
The point of that is content management tech. We put out the first AI artist, King Wallonius's album, that BBL Drizzy project. We did a deal with Vidya by way of Gamma. So we immediately went with a heat-seeking missile towards the guys that are doing it at the highest level. We're bringing out some really strong, staunch R&B artists. And more importantly than anything, we're really working with executives trying to help them pivot and understand how to manage your artists,
Nice.
how to do your contracts,
Nice.
how to be in position at your respective company, how to reinvent yourself, that sort of thing. If you want to pivot, come holler at your boys. We really serious about it.
Nice.
We've been in business for a couple of years too.
Okay.
Nobody knows.
Okay. And one last person, another mutual. What are you doing with Omas?
Omas Keith.
Yeah.
He and I started this company called A Tiny Universe ages ago. And we just kind of collaborate on projects, you know, producing these artists, trying to make sure that these records come out. And the King Wallonius project was something we did top to bottom together.
Okay.
Shouts out to James Andrews, who was managing King Wallonius, and Donald Woodard, his lawyer, and Will himself. Max and I said, let's do press play. I was like, Omas, you got to get in this. And he's really on the tech side now of things that's happening.
Yep.
But we go all the way back to when I did the first Anderson album. Omas and Anderson was a drummer in Omas's band.
Ah, wow.
So, you know, there's a lot of synchronicity.
Across, yeah.
And Omas is doing all kinds of stuff. Last I heard, he was doing Jill Scott. And
yeah, he did Jill.
He stays in the mix making records with artists.
Yeah. We worked together at Atlantic. That's my guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's my guy. That's my guy. Almost my guy. Let's hit your questions. 3 favorite artists.
Stevie Wonder, Prince, Bob Marley.
Ooh, I think that's the first that Bob mentioned in that. I mean, all obviously great people, great artists, like no question. Give me your 3 favorite places in LA.
Oh, Simply Wholesome.
Is that the food spot? Yeah, Paul took me there.
Yeah.
Paul took me there. Mm-hmm.
Simply Wholesome.
Yep.
Alfred's Coffee.
Okay.
I'm going there right now, effective immediately. In the barber shop.
Okay.
I gotta get a fresh cut every week. Come on through.
Okay. And give me your 3 favorite places in St. Louis.
Oh. Probably my mama house, my brother house. No, I'm not gonna say that.
No, you can say that. It's your list. You say whatever you want.
I went with Chuck D to this Thai restaurant. And my boy Chris took us to this Thai spot. I don't even know the name of it. Chris, what's the name of that Thai restaurant? So that was a favorite spot. I forgot about that spot.
Okay.
Ruth Chris, because of sentimental value in St. Louis. The Ruth Chris out in the one in Clayton, y'all. Don't be fronting on me. And any Chinaman, on the city side.
Dope.
Oh my gosh! Any Chinese restaurant got it. Emo's Pizza.
Okay.
We can rock.
Okay. All right. I enjoyed this, man. I learned a lot.
Yeah, man.
I learned a lot. I feel
like I overtalked you. We got to
No.
We got to get Jeff on my show.
Yeah, but yeah. I was like, we're talking to me. This is your interview. It's not my interview. It's your interview. I'm not.
Oh, man, I'm so humbled by just even being asked to be a part of this.
I appreciate it, man.
I'm a huge Jeff Sledge fan. I was talking to you on my birthday when we decided to do this.
Oh, you know what?
In March.
It was your birthday. You mentioned that. It was your birthday.
I was in Hawaii waiting for the flood to happen.
Exactly.
It was about to flood, and I was just like,
you
want me on your show?
Yep.
I'm doing it.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate it. This is fun, man. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. You can catch Mixed and Mastered on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that follow button, leave a review, and tell a friend. I'm your host, Jeffrey Sledge. Mixed and Mastered is produced and distributed by Merrick Studios.